alto que los euros y que los dólares.
Yep. Okay. I'd like to welcome all delegates to this spotlight session of the Global Refugee Forum Progress Review, and in particular the panellists. Firstly, a housekeeping note, the translations are available in English, in French, Spanish and Arabic. This session brings together an exceptional group of speakers from the UNHCR, the European Union Agency for Asylum, the governments of Costa Rica, Egypt and Chad, as well as a refugee-led organisation. Today's discussion is on strong and sustainable asylum systems, addressing challenges, enabling protection and solutions. I'm David Mann, CEO and Principal Solicitor of Refugee Legal, a legal NGO in Australia, and I'm also a co-founder and member of the core group of the GRF Legal Community Pledge. First to the format. This event will consist of a panel discussion with speakers highlighting examples and good practices in relation to strengthening national asylum systems. The event will provide an opportunity which is threefold. First, to reaffirm the political will and collective spirit to strengthen national asylum systems to address current challenges, enabling protection and solutions through whole-of-society collaboration and benefiting from refugee-led perspectives. Secondly, to advance implementation of asylum pledges across countries of asylum, transit and destination by identifying areas where additional technical, material or financial efforts and support are needed, and mobilise new pledges through renewed engagement. Third, to highlight promising practices and innovations that have emerged across regions, contributing to more effective, fair and accessible asylum procedures to sustainably strengthen asylum systems. Before turning to our panel speakers, I've been invited to offer some reflections on progress of the GRF Legal Community Pledge, including Australia's contribution. The pledge was launched at the 2019 GRF in response to a major global challenge: how to boost access to high-quality legal aid in the face of acute unmet legal need. Core purposes of the pledge are to increase legal assistance to refugees and others displaced, and to facilitate improved asylum systems, robust systems underpinned by the rule of law and access to justice. Creating partnerships across the legal community is also key, as are RLOs in this. Momentum builds with now 125 NGOs, private sector law firms, states and other civil society actors joining forces. The upshot, in 2024, just last year, over 395,000 hours of free legal assistance were provided, more than 50% of what was pledged. Across the last 2 years, we provided almost 1 million people with direct legal services, well on track to double the original commitment by 2027. But what lies behind these remarkable numbers? It's a powerful case of collective action, expanding access to legal help, to rights, to justice, and lasting solutions to people displaced. And as a result, to improving the effectiveness of national asylum systems through advancing proper identification of protection need by states. Most crucially, early legal assistance enables people to understand the system and submit decision-ready applications. This not only helps states to properly identify protection needs and improve the quality of decision-making, it also improves the efficiency of asylum systems by reducing delays and backlogs. Put simply, legal assistance is instrumental in facilitating the proper operation of asylum systems. In this context, we have helped inform and implement recent reforms by the Australian Government, a pledge member to the refugee protection system in Australia. These included a $160 million package to boost decision-making capacity and free legal assistance. Legal assistance being recognised as not optional, but integral, and is essential in addressing backlogs under a fairer and more efficient process. Through the pledge, at Refugee Legal, we are now partnering with 27 major private legal sector firms, delivering this year an additional 48,000 hours of free legal help to tens of thousands of people in dire need, which is just one example of the powerful collaborations between legal NGOs and private law firms globally throughout the pledge. And above this, so much else has been done, including extraordinary partnerships by NGOs and governments and others, a whole of society approach delivering expertise, fundamental expertise on law reform and also on implementation of asylum systems. But amidst this extraordinary approach, amidst these extraordinary achievements of the pledge, we face a perfect storm. Record numbers of people displaced, systematic erosion of fundamental rights to asylum, resettlement and the rule of law, taking the law out of the law, and decimation of funding of UN bodies and NGOs. UNHCR and NGO pledge members are being forced to close offices, cut staff and cease critical programs. Members of the legal community are being targeted, even prosecuted for advising asylum seekers. At this critical time, the global legal community reaffirms its commitments and has called for stakeholders to expand funding and access to legal assistance, advance meaningful participation of refugees in legal systems and programs, safeguard the independence of legal actors, and strengthen asylum systems globally, and to actively engage with or to join the pledge. There has never been a greater need for our collective work that continues to change lives and strengthen systems designed to deliver protection to people in need. I'd now like to invite the Assistant High Commissioner for Protection from UNHCR to make her opening remarks. And Reuven, you have the floor.
Thank you, David. And I'll remove my glasses because I see so much better without them. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'd like to join David in welcoming you to this Spotlight event on strong and sustainable asylum systems, addressing challenges, enabling protection and solutions. As David has said, asylum systems globally are under strain. They have struggled to effectively respond to high numbers of forcibly displaced people as a result of the multitude of unresolved displacement situations, as well as increasing misuse of asylum channels for economic migration. This very real pressure is reflected in two stark statistics. First, the global backlog of pending asylum applications, which stands at 8.4 million today. Second, the global approval rate, which has been approximately 55% in recent years, meaning that 45% of people making an asylum application today are ultimately found not to be in need of international protection. This has led to some entities questioning the viability of asylum systems and of the international protection regime. However, the problem is not the international protection regime, which has saved the lives of millions of people seeking safety. Rather, it is a problem of implementation. A closer look at asylum systems around the world show that where they are well-resourced, managed, and implement effective approaches, they can deliver. They can be fair and efficient, quickly providing protection while maintaining integrity. Ensuring fair and efficient asylum systems also provides an enabling environment to achieving the goals of the GCR. Ease pressures on host countries, enhance refugee self-reliance, and increase access to third country solutions. None of these goals can be realized without quality asylum systems. This event today will demonstrate that with proven strategies and collective action, the challenges facing asylum systems can be overcome, and that these systems can provide protection, meet the needs of states, and unlock solutions. UNHCR is very grateful for the many states that have strengthened their asylum capacity or provided support to others through the Asylum Capacity Support Group. Recently, UNHCR released its strategic approach to strengthening national asylum systems, which outlines ways to strengthen these systems for sustainable and long-term impact by holistically addressing legal and policy, institutional and procedural elements. It identifies 5 areas of engagement to be considered depending on the local context: supportive law and policy frameworks, performing institutions, procedural efficiency, strategic human resource management, and asylum seeker engagement through accessible information and legal assistance. Ladies and gentlemen, we must all work together to ensure that asylum capacity initiatives are looked at in this comprehensive manner to ensure longer-term sustainable impact and to operationalize effective responsibility sharing. Asylum systems are also key to ensuring sustainable responses that promote refugee self-reliance and inclusion in national systems. These responses require refugees to be recognized and provided with legal stay and documents, which are done most effectively through quality national asylum systems. Asylum systems should be supported also along key routes of mixed and onward movements to ensure that refugees are able to receive protection as soon as possible after displacement. If faced with waiting for years in an asylum backlog or having a claim rejected unfairly, refugees may look for safety elsewhere. Many asylum systems along key routes require support to operate efficiently and fairly, and there's still a lot to be done in this regard. As states consider innovative ways to address the challenges faced by mixed movements, it is important to recognize that almost all innovative approaches require a well-functioning asylum system to be viable and effective. UNHCR has been working to provide support to states worldwide through concrete and direct support that is tailored to their specific context. At a global level, UNHCR will continue to prioritize this work despite reduced budgets and will also continue to issue strategic tools and guidance. As part of the implementation of the strategic approach, UNHCR has recently issued Asylum Procedures Toolkit and tools such as the National Asylum Procedures Dashboard, providing an overview of the world's asylum systems. The QR codes on the screen give you access to these. Today's event will also showcase progress and recommit to asylum capacity support through the Asylum Capacity Support Group as a special initiative explicitly provided under the GCR. Responsibility sharing through concrete, practical, and sustainable forms of cooperation at regional and global levels is critical for strengthening asylum systems. The Asylum Capacity Support Group has acted as a key mechanism to ensure that this support can be provided in an impactful manner. With today's alarming levels of displacement, the world's refugees face ever more challenging obstacles. I would therefore encourage states, legal aid entities, UN agencies, human rights mechanisms, civil society, refugee-led organizations, and others to build on the efforts and initiatives that will be showcased today to ensure that asylum systems are able to address the challenges they face and can provide faster protection and solutions for refugees. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Assistant High Commissioner. And now I would like to invite Ms. Nina Grigori, Executive Director of the European Union Agency for Asylum, to speak. And if I could just pose a question to you, and that is the EU's contributions both within and beyond Europe offer valuable insights for strengthening asylum systems globally. Could you please share some insights on the implementation of the recently adopted EU Pact on Migration and Asylum and how they might inform efforts to strengthen asylum systems worldwide? And as part of that, can I also just ask you to address this? The EU supports capacity development through diverse programs in neighbouring countries and beyond. And can you also please elaborate on how these initiatives contribute to building fair and efficient asylum systems outside the EU.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, David, for this kind introduction, of course. And thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really honored to be here and to speak on this really important panel. Indeed, the European Union has been happy, of course, to contribute to the recent UNHCR strategy on strengthening national asylum systems. And indeed, as Ruan mentioned, and the strategy highlights that well-functioning, fair, and efficient asylum systems can deliver international protection to those in need and, of course, complement effective migration management for states. This is, of course, a key point for European Union also. We strongly believe in the importance of the strong asylum systems and in the respect of the principles of international protection and non-refoulement. And we have acted on this belief both internally as European Union, but also externally. In 2024, after years of negotiations, we reached an agreement on complete overhaul of our internal legal framework on asylum, which indeed you might know as Pact on Migration and Asylum that has been adopted. So our aim is to make faster, fairer, and better prepared system for crisis through contingency planning, but also through the permanent mechanism for solidarity among EU member states. The new system will enter into application in June of next year, and all relevant actors, so the member states, but also other stakeholders, including our agency, of course, are working around the clock to ensure that this system will be implemented successfully. So we will be happy to share best practices and lessons learned with all interested countries, for instance, through the dialogue platform of the Asylum Capacity Support Group. Our commitment, of course, to high-quality asylum space extends beyond our internal dimension. We are proud to be supporting many partner countries in strengthening their asylum and reception systems. I would just like to mention some of the examples of the European Commission initiatives in this field. So EU regional support to protection-sensitive migration management system in the Western Balkans, which has been running for 11 years now. The Regional Development and Protection Program for North Africa, whose new phase will run until 2028, and the Global Action, which has been launched this year to strengthen asylum systems and address statelessness in Mauritania, in Thailand, Malaysia, Chad, Lebanon, Colombia, and Democratic Republic of Congo. So to be more clear, EU does not offer only financial support, of course. We are expanding our support in capacity development cooperation, in coordination with UNHCR and other partners, of course, in this area. And European Union does this mainly through the agency that I have an honor to lead, so the European Agency for Asylum, or EUAA. The agency's core mission is to support our own member states, so the EU member states, in the application of our common rules on asylum. But as you can also imagine, much of our efforts are now focused on the preparation for the pact implementation. But we do obviously also continue cooperating with partner countries outside of the EU by supporting their efforts to enhance protection space and to put in place legal frameworks for refugees to access their rights. We have bilateral roadmaps with all 6 Western Balkan countries. We are present in Turkey, and also we are working together with Egypt, as Ambassador El Shabrini knows. We also cooperate with Northern African partner countries such as Egypt, Algeria, Mauritania, Morocco, and Libya through the regional protection projects. So at the GRF in 2023, we pledged to expand our assistance by providing enhanced support to the new countries that applied for EU membership. And I'm really happy and proud that I can announce today that we will start also bilateral roadmaps and cooperation with Ukraine and Moldova by next year. We will assist them in achieving their goal of aligning their protection systems to the norms and standards of EU, an important step in their accession process. So to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, I really strongly believe that high-quality asylum systems are essential to protect, to improve and expand international protection space, because they guarantee integrity, sustainability, and also public support. EU will continue working with all of our partners to make them fairer, more efficient, and of course, more effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for those important remarks and also for outlining the ongoing commitment and expanded commitment for developing asylum capacity, the sharing of expertise, which is so fundamental, and not only in the EU, but beyond the EU. So thank you. I would now like to invite Ambassador Fernandez to speak. And Ambassador Fernandez is Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Costa Rica to the United Nations Office at Geneva. And if I could pose a question, Ambassador, to you, and that is in relation to Costa Rica's leadership in strengthening asylum systems nationally and through MIRP. Yes. It provides valuable lessons. And I would like to ask, Costa Rica has played a leading role in MIRPS's and asylum work and has recently matched its GRF pledge with Canada. So could you please share how these initiatives are helping to strengthen asylum capacity in Costa Rica and across the region, and how can regional collaboration and international partnerships support these efforts?
Thank you very much, David. And as Ruben and Nina said before, we are living in a very challenging times. And but if you allow me, I will move to Spanish because as we have interpretation, and it's always a luxury to speak in mother tongue. Yes. And then it allows me all to say hello to the interpreters and to grade them their happy holidays. Como lo decía Rubén y Nina, efectivamente estamos viviendo tiempos muy complejos. Complejos en el sentido de que la movilidad humana está en transformación. En los últimos meses hemos observado una disminución significativa de los movimientos mixtos. Hemos visto también cómo las rutas tradicionales se han cambiado. Hay también una modificación de los patrones de tránsito y emergencia de flujos en sentido inverso. Pero aparte de eso, para que la tormenta sea perfecta, hay primero políticas restrictivas y falta de fondos. Entonces, todo esto lo único que hace es que efectivamente necesitemos ser aún más eficientes en la protección y en los sistemas de protección. Y ahí es donde lo que yo quiero aportar en esta discusión, David, es el enfoque regional. Y esto es lo que trae el mecanismo integral para protección y soluciones, el MIRPS, que ha sido muy exitoso. Costa Rica tuvo el privilegio de tener la presidencia durante el 2025, la trasladamos a El Salvador para el 2026, y entonces quiero compartir con ustedes muy rápidamente qué es lo que hicimos. ¿Qué hicimos? Primero, creo que lo más importante fue buscar acuerdos que fueran pragmáticos, y eso es importante en un tiempo tan convulso, es pragmatismo. El segundo era que buscar espacios de trabajo conjuntos, evitar los silos, sino tratar de poner a todos juntos para tratar de, en mi país dicen, para jalar la carreta conjuntamente, para ir todos en el mismo sentido. Y tercero, buscar alianzas estratégicas, buscar a todos los actores, es decir, a la sociedad civil, a los gobiernos, a la empresa privada y lógicamente que tratar de que la protección fuera más efectiva, pero que también esa protección sea sostenible. Y ahí, para tener esa sostenibilidad, es fundamental tener integración y inclusividad. Inclusividad lo digo sobre todo en una parte que para Costa Rica es fundamental, que es la inclusividad de la mitad de la humanidad, que muchas veces está en situaciones de vulnerabilidad, que son las mujeres y las niñas. Pero entonces, en ese sentido, con esas tres visiones que le dije, ¿qué hicimos, cómo hicimos un fortalecimiento regional de la protección de los sistemas de asilo, que es para nosotros lo que era más importante? Bueno, primero tratamos de darle un seguimiento y operacionalización de las promesas regionales del MIRPS, es decir, todo aquello que había sido prometido, darle seguimiento para ver cómo poco a poco se convertía en realidad. Siempre is the big challenge, the follow-up and the implementation, ¿verdad? O sea, eso es el verdadero, porque los statements y todo lo que podamos decir es muy importante porque está la convicción política, pero si esa convicción política no la bajamos al terreno, quedan nada más palabras que se lleva el viento. Entonces, una de las cosas que el equipo técnico regional sobre recepción, admisión y procesamiento de casos promovió varias cosas. Primero, reducir rezagos y tiempos de espera. No podemos proteger a la gente si la gente está esperando mucho tiempo para tener su tarjeta de identidad. No los podemos integrar, pero además están corriendo peligro. Modernizar los procedimientos, muy importante. Es decir, a veces tenemos muchas nuevas herramientas tecnológicas, tenemos muchas cosas que podemos avanzar, entonces podemos modernizar esos sistemas. Y el otro es incorporar enfoques diferenciados y sensibles a las necesidades específicas. O sea, si usted tiene niñez, la mejor manera de integrarlo y de protegerlo es darle acceso a la escuela, por ejemplo. O si usted tiene que proteger a un cierto grupo de adultos, la mejor manera es darle posibilidad de que pueda trabajar. Entonces, ese tipo de visiones que no son innovadores, no estamos descubriendo el agua tibia, ¿verdad? O sea, no es nada nuevo, pero sí, efectivamente, implementar. Y entonces, ¿cuáles fueron las medidas concretas que podemos decir que se avanzaron en el 2025? Bueno, digitalización del registro y gestión de casos. Parece evidente, pero no era el caso en muchos países. Adopción de modalidades diferenciadas de tramitación, priorizando grupos vulnerables. Ustedes saben que nosotros, por ejemplo, tenemos una gran población de países que atraviesan por nuestra frontera norte, por una situación en el país vecino, con muchas situaciones de necesidades de protección real. Entonces, esas personas hay que darles una prioridad en su protección física, ¿verdad? La otra es promoción de programas de regularización, que son también otras posibilidades que se nos enfrentan. A nivel regional, y no voy a tomar mucho tiempo, creo que el modelo regional para la identificación de vulnerabilidades y necesidades de protección ha sido un gran éxito. Es decir, tener un mapa de toda la región, de cuáles son esas vulnerabilidades y esas necesidades, para hacer, como dicen en inglés, el match entre una y otra, y así aumentar la eficiencia, porque eso es protección. Si hay una mayor demanda de protección y queremos que se logre esa protección, tenemos que ser más eficientes. Tengo muchos ejemplos positivos de lo que hizo mi país a nivel nacional, pero creo que lo que quería resaltar yo era sobre todo la parte que es más importante desde nuestro punto de vista, que era toda la parte regional. Por último, sí quiero resaltar dos cosas, resultados concretos del MIRPS. Primero, que el multilateralismo regional es el mecanismo efectivo para enfrentar este tipo de situaciones. Si queremos tener una protección a nivel regional de personas en necesidad, tiene que ser con multilateralismo, no unilateralmente, sino en un trabajo conjunto. Y eso creo que demostró que la cooperación regional, el aprendizaje entre pares, ese compartir las buenas experiencias y tener un enfoque de una ruta común han sido fundamentales para lograr resultados concretos, incluso en estos tiempos tan difíciles con recursos muy limitados. Muchas gracias, David.
Well, thank you so much, Ambassador. And really, if I could just say that the core thread in the vision that you've outlined is really how to animate the principles of protection. And to animate them, you've really underscored the importance of animating them through efficiency and practical and concrete measures in the implementation. And also the second point, which is that this must be a whole of society approach, that it must involve integration and inclusion. So thank you so much for your remarks. And I'd now like to turn to the Ambassador El-Shabini. And welcome. And Ambassador El-Shabini, Assistant Minister for Multilateral Cooperation and International Security from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Egyptian Expatriates of Egypt. And if I could just pose a question to you, Ambassador, and that is the Government of Egypt's enactment of its first national asylum law in December 2024 was a very significant step. Could you please share the key priorities and next steps Egypt has planned to operationalise this law and establish a fully functioning national asylum system in line with international standards, including perhaps highlighting how does Egypt intend to engage key stakeholders such as civil society, international partners and refugee communities in this process? And also, if you could also share with us what lessons from Egypt's experience could help other states build fair, efficient and sustainable asylum systems. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Actually, it's a pleasure and honor to be here in this panel and to take part of this discussion to share some lights about our experience with the new asylum law and our plan or transitional plan to move from the UNHCR protection system to a national protection system that will take the responsibility for the protection of the refugees and asylum seekers in Egypt. Actually, since the adoption of the new law number 164 of 2024, Egypt as immediate priority for us has to be to move from legislation to effective and rights-based implementation. Our operational roadmap has 4 parallel and mutual reinforcing tracks. The transition plan developed in close cooperation between the government of Egypt and UNHCR, and the target is to have a gradual and well-sequenced handover over the 5 years, a 5-year period. This phased approach is designed to safeguard the rights of all existing refugees and asylum seekers in Egypt, while ensuring at the same time the uninterrupted provision of services and protection through the transition to a nationally led asylum system. There is a clear need for a broader international support to facilitate Egypt's transition to a fully state-led asylum system, both through increased financial resources and through the exchange of good practice as well. And technical expertise and capacity building assistance. Such support is essential to ensure a smooth, effective and sustainable transition. We are now finalizing the executive regulation of the law, which is contained the bylaws. This process is taking place in full coordination with the national authorities and with inputs as well from our international partners, particularly UNHCR and as well the EU Asylum Agency, and to ensure full alignment with Egypt's international obligations and with global protection standards. The regulations or the bylaws will translate the law into practical procedures, including detailed RSD workflows, prioritization of vulnerable cases, confidentiality, safeguards, and clear cooperation mechanisms with service providers. The law established as well a National Permanent Commission and for refugees, and this will be the national authority for registration and refugee status determination. Our next steps include recruiting and training protection officers, case manager, interpreters, and social workers for the committee, and needed equipments as well with robust case management and secure data systems. This includes technical assistance from UNHCR, and there is a joint transitional plan to preserve quality while national capacity grows. And the operationalization of the law requires as well collaboration with health, education, labor, and social solidarity ministries on the national level So refugees can benefit from primary health care, primary education, recognition of credentials, and access to formal labor markets. As the law envisages, we are mapping service delivery gaps and mobilizing donors currently, and we are developing as well finance to scale capacity where needed. This is what we are doing now in the way to establish the committee and to move with the implementation of the new regulation in the new system. Regarding what lessons learned or good practices from Egypt experience in this regard, actually we have an out-of-camp policy. So this allows refugees to live within the host communities and to access national education and health system and to benefit from all social services provided to Egyptians. This model reduces long-term humanitarian dependency and strengthens social cohesion at the same time. So by adopting the new Foreigners Asylum Law number 164, this is demonstrate close cooperation from our side with our international partners, and as well with aiming to establish a national framework that will be aligned with international obligations. The new asylum law is one of the region's first dedicated national asylum laws. This legislation translates Egypt's long-standing international commitments under the 1951 Refugees Convention and 1969 OEU Convention into a comprehensive domestic frameworks. It defines the rights and obligations of refugees and asylum seekers, embedded in the principle of non-refoulement, and provides procedural safeguards, including access to services and special protection for those in vulnerable situations. Importantly, the law establishes the National Permanent Commission, which will be in charge of refugees and would be responsible for the National Authority of Registration, as I mentioned before. This is actually our experience. This is what we are doing right now, and the process, it's going on, it's in move, and we hope by next year in 2026 we will have the committee, the bylaws adopted and the committee established, and then we will start the transitional phase in close cooperation with our international partners. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ambassador. Such a significant development, not only for Egypt but for the region, as you mentioned, and you know, two particular points that you made that I just wanted to refer to briefly. Again, the fundamental importance of a rights-based approach in asylum systems, and one where the cornerstone is international obligations, safeguarding international obligations, including, as you mentioned, non-refoulement. Which is really at the heart of it. But also, you also referred to, you know, engaging civil society, cooperation with service providers, and a more holistic or whole-of-society approach. And there's a major opportunity here for, of course, as you're outlining, for the asylum system to take a whole-of-society approach and to look at a range of different service providers with a range of different needs that asylum seekers have in the system. So thank you for outlining the commitment and such a significant development. I now turn to our next speaker, and our next speaker is Mohammed Yaqub, and Mohammed Yaqub is Principal Administrator of the National Commission in Chad. And welcome to the panel. I would like to come to you with a question which is in relation to Chad's experience in establishing its national asylum system and plans for further operationalisation. Can you please share insights on recent developments and plans for Chad's asylum structures, effective use of prima facie procedures, and has the GRF pledge and support through the Asylum Capacity Support Group helped you in this work? The floor is yours.
Thank you. Je vais parler en français, donc veuillez prendre vos casques. Merci beaucoup pour votre question. Et le Tchad est très content de faire partie de ces discussions. Et le Tchad, comme vous le savez, est considéré comme un pays champion en matière d'accueil, mais aussi de l'inclusion. Et donc, nous avons, conformément aux engagements que nous avons pris lors du premier forum mondial pour les réfugiés, bien que le Tchad étant partie aussi de la Convention de Genève de 1951, le Tchad a promulgué une loi le 31 décembre 2020 sur l'asile. Et cette loi accorde aux réfugiés les mêmes droits que les nationaux en matière d'éducation, de santé et de protection sociale. Il prévoit également la reconnaissance de la carte d'identité des réfugiés comme titre de séjour. Le 25 avril 2023, en plein afflux des réfugiés fuyant la guerre au Soudan, Son Excellence le maréchal du Tchad a promulgué le décret d'application de la loi d'asile portant les modalités d'application de la loi du 31 décembre 2020. Ce décret de 2023 établit les mesures visant à rendre opérationnelles les dispositions de la loi de 2020 sur l'asile. Désormais, l'ensemble de ces instruments juridiques, composés de la loi de 2020 et du décret de 2023, est appelé législation sur l'asile. Le décret de 2023 décrit les procédures d'accueil et l'enregistrement des demandeurs d'asile arrivant au Tchad. Il détaille la procédure de détermination individuelle du statut de réfugié, c'est-à-dire DSR, couvrant les modalités d'entretien des évaluations DSR, détermination du statut de réfugié, et la décision finale par la commission d'éligibilité secondaire. En outre, le décret introduit une procédure accélérée de DSR pour les groupes spécifiques, notamment les enfants non accompagnés et séparés, les victimes de tortures et de violences sexistes et les demandeurs d'asile vulnérables. Il aborde également la reconnaissance prima facie aux réfugiés pour les afflux massifs dits à la violence et aux troubles, pour le groupe des demandeurs d'asile présentant aussi des caractéristiques similaires. Depuis l'adoption du décret d'application de la loi d'asile 2020, la Commission nationale des réfugiés a entrepris une vaste opération de vulgarisation de la législation sur l'asile auprès des autorités administratives, des départements ministériels, des autorités locales, des communautés réfugiées, du secteur privé et des organisations de la société civile. Lors du second forum mondial sur les réfugiés, le Tchad a pris l'engagement de traiter à l'horizon 2027 tous les dossiers en instance de détermination du statut des réfugiés, particulièrement ceux d'asile installés au sud et à l'est du pays. Depuis lors, le pays s'est évertué à mettre sur pied un mécanisme innovant d'émission mobile de la sous-commission éligibilité dans les provinces de l'Est et du Sud. Et je suis ravi de vous annoncer qu'à ce jour, plus de 50% des dossiers en instance ont été déjà traités. Par ailleurs, depuis 2023, le pays noue des partenariats stratégiques avec la France à travers OFPRA et l'UE à travers INPTA pour l'amélioration de sa capacité d'asile. Concrètement, ces partenariats se sont matérialisés d'un côté par la signature d'un accord avec OFPRA et la Sénat et de l'autre, le financement par l'UE d'un programme de renforcement de l'environnement d'asile pour l'élaboration d'une procédure simplifiée de détermination du statut des réfugiés, d'un manuel de procédure de DSR, de la poursuite de la vulgarisation de la loi d'asile et la digitalisation progressive de la procédure d'asile. Voici en quelques mots les bonnes pratiques que nous faisons au Tchad et je vous remercie.
Thank you so much for outlining such important developments again in Chad and also, I think, again, that importance of awareness raising both within government and across agencies, but also within civil society and including refugee communities. So thank you very much and for that outline of those important good practices and developments. And I now would like to turn to Ms. Lisbeth Guerrero, and founding member and board representative of the dialogue mechanism between refugee-led organisations in Mexico, also known as Merlos MX. And if I could come to you with a couple of questions, and the first one is, why is meaningful refugee participation critical to strengthening asylum procedures? And how does it impact decision-making quality and fairness? So that's the first question. And the second one is, what lessons from Merlos MX can guide similar initiatives, and what practical steps can states and humanitarian actors take to systematically integrate refugee voices into asylum system design and implementation. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks to Ambassador Costa Rica, because now I can speak Spanish. So, and thanks to all the panel and marvelous panel, and for me, it's an honor to be here. Bueno, efectivamente, quiero darle las gracias a todas sus excelencias que se encuentran aquí presentes, a todas las organizaciones de la sociedad civil, RLOs, y a personas desplazadas que han participado en este foro y que estamos ya a punto de horas de cerrarlo, y que ya toda esta representación y el que esté aquí en este momento da una muestra de lo que es la participación significativa y de lo que queremos seguir construyendo en conjunto. Y gracias por lo que cada uno de ustedes hace desde sus diversos, vamos a decir, esquinas, trabajo para ayudar a que esta representación siga adelante. Tomando las preguntas efectivamente que nos mencionan, yo estoy aquí precisamente para hablar del MERLOS. El MERLOS es el mecanismo de diálogo existente entre las organizaciones de la sociedad civil, bueno, de las RLO con el ACNUR México. Primero que nada, traerlo como buena práctica, porque gracias a la apertura y precisamente a la defensa de seguir teniendo una participación real en las tomas de decisiones, fue que hace 3 años se instaló, se dio como uniformidad al mecanismo de diálogo entre las organizaciones lideradas por personas refugiadas y ACNUR México. Si no hubiese habido en ese momento la apertura para escucharnos, para permitir que nos sentáramos en la mesa y pudiéramos tener el diálogo de lo que estaba ocurriendo, porque al fin y al cabo nosotros como RLO somos los que tenemos el pulso de lo que pasa día a día en el terreno, y que pudiéramos llevarlo a las mesas, pudiéramos conversar con ellos y juntos construir una estrategia de cómo se debían atender situaciones estructurales, porque la idea no era atender casos particulares, sino atacar las situaciones desde la raíz. En ese sentido, este espacio es un espacio que ha sido único en las Américas, un mecanismo formal de diálogo y trabajo colaborativo entre ACNUR y las RLO, y está regido por un documento que llamamos el mínimo común ético, basado en la transparencia, independencia, enfoque de derechos, multiculturalidad y apartidismo. Esto ha permitido consolidar un entorno de confianza donde las comunidades refugiadas participan no solo como consultadas, sino como corresponsables en el análisis del contexto y en la generación de estrategias para mejorar la protección internacional en el país. Es un entorno regional donde los gobiernos suelen mostrar reservas para establecer mesas formales con las RLO. Y aquí hago este paréntesis que pasaba en muchas ocasiones. Los estados sentían miedo de poderse sentar con RLO o con personas desplazadas porque me van a señalar, o sea, me vas a decir no lo estás haciendo bien. Y con esto se ha venido demostrando de que este relacionamiento no solo es posible, sino que estamos aquí para coadyuvar al logro de metas y de intereses comunes. Y tomo la palabra que decía el embajador hace poco, el MIRPS. Nosotros tuvimos la oportunidad, junto con otra organización también en el territorio, de llevar la coordinación regional del mecanismo de diálogo de la sociedad civil durante el año 2025. Y este intercambio ha demostrado que lo que queremos precisamente como organizaciones lideradas por personas refugiadas y las personas refugiadas y desplazadas en sí mismas es contribuir a hacer un trabajo en conjunto, a que sea posible en un contexto tan difícil como señalábamos, aquí estamos, o sea, tenemos capacidades y esas capacidades están al servicio de una comunidad en común a la que nos debemos y a la que queremos ayudar. Perdón. En esa misma tónica, esto es una referencia para avanzar en la agenda de participación significativa con otros actores, entre ellos el sistema de asilo en México. A partir de mostrar estos impactos positivos del MERLO, el mecanismo pudo movilizar y brindar recomendaciones a la Comisión Mexicana de Ayuda a Refugiados en México, de nombre COMAR, la autoridad competente en la materia de asilo para los refugiados, en el sentido de que se diera impulso a los mecanismos cuatripartitos. Estos mecanismos cuatripartitos también han sido una buena experiencia porque existe un mecanismo federal y unos mecanismos locales, y el mecanismo está conformado por 4 actores fundamentales, que es el ACNUR, es la sociedad civil o sociedad civil y RLOs que los componen. También se encuentran COMAR y se encuentran las personas refugiadas en sí mismas. Esto se trata de una práctica innovadora a nivel regional que demuestra que la participación directa de las comunidades refugiadas es compatible con los procesos de política pública y más aún que mejora la pertinencia, la eficacia y la legitimidad de las decisiones. Los mecanismos cuatripartitos han permitido que las personas refugiadas puedan analizar junto con las instituciones las brechas de protección, desde un entendimiento comunitario que ninguna otra institución puede sustituir. Corresponsabilizarse en el diseño de estrategias y de respuestas, visibilizar impactos diferenciados y particularmente en la atención diferenciada, mujeres, juventudes, colectivos de comunidades LGTBQ+, fortaleciendo un enfoque de edad, género, diversidad e interseccionalidad. Colaboración en una arquitectura conjunta, RLO, ACNUR, Gobierno. De esta forma, el MERLOS demuestra que la participación significativa es posible cuando existe una arquitectura colaborativa clara. Los mensajes y recomendaciones para finalizar: la participación significativa no es un complemento, es un componente esencial de un sistema de asilo robusto. Cuando los sistemas escuchan a quienes los experimentan, las soluciones son más precisas, más humanas y más sostenibles. El MERLOS demuestra que es posible y deseable formalizar e institucionalizar la colaboración con organizaciones lideradas por los refugiados. El esquema MERLOS es una práctica que puede ser replicada o adaptada, ya sea por operaciones de ACNUR o como modelo de referencia para otros estados, especialmente en contextos de flujos de migración de población. Fortalecer los sistemas de asilo requiere un enfoque Wall of Society, gobiernos, ACNUR, sociedad civil y RLO trabajando en corresponsabilidad. La experiencia del MERLOS en México muestra que la confianza se construye con reglas claras, espacios formales y continuidad. En nombre del MERLOS les reitero a todos los presentes nuestro compromiso de seguir contribuyendo al fortalecimiento del sistema de asilo y de compartir este modelo con interés para las operaciones de otros países. Gracias.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And look, it's such a inspiring and compelling example of, challenging and challenging and overcoming structural barriers, traditional barriers, and where instead, through this innovation that you're talking about, what has happened is that effectively, based on cooperation, based on understanding, based on collaboration, the system has been not only improved, but vastly strengthened, and such an inspiring example. Thank you. I will now open the floor to interventions from the floor, and I will now first turn to Panama. Panama, you have the floor. And,
Muy buenas tardes, honorable señora Rubendrini Menik Dibuela, Alta Comisionada Junta para la Protección, Excelencias, distinguidos representantes, señoras y señores. Es un honor anunciar que la República de Panamá asumirá en el año 2026 la presidencia pro tempore del proceso de Quito, un compromiso que acogemos con determinación para fortalecer la cooperación regional en asilo y protección internacional. Desde 2018, Panamá se sumó como uno de los 3 estados que adoptaron la Declaración de Quito. A partir de ese compromiso inicial, hemos reconocido que los movimientos humanos requieren respuestas compartidas, responsables y humanitarias. En 2024, el proceso de Quito avanzó hacia una mayor coordinación con la Declaración y el Plan de Acción de Chile, generando sinergias valiosas en materia de protección. En este contexto, Panamá ha sido sede por segundo año consecutivo de la reunión técnica de las CONARES en las Américas, un espacio coliderado con el MIRS y acompañado por el ACNUR. Este esfuerzo ha permitido armonizar prioridades, fortaleciendo la integración entre los principales mecanismos regionales. Bajo nuestra presidencia pro tempore del proceso de Quito, Panamá renueva su determinación de consolidar estas alianzas, optimizar recursos y fortalecer los canales de diálogo. Asumimos este rol dando continuidad al trabajo realizado por quienes nos antecedieron, respondiendo siempre con la responsabilidad que amerita cada desafío que enfrenta la región. Deseo concluir reafirmando el firme compromiso de la República de Panamá, bajo el liderazgo del excelentísimo señor presidente José Raúl Mulino, en continuar avanzando con una visión humanitaria, responsable y orientada a resultados. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much to Mr. Juan Borrell, Vice Minister of the Government of Panama. I now invite the second intervention from Mr. Alain Espinaz, France's Director General of the Office for Protection of Refugees and Stateless Persons. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I will speak in French. Madame la haut-commissaire adjointe, monsieur le modérateur, Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, merci de me donner la parole en tant que directeur général de l'Office français de protection des réfugiés et apatrides, l'OFPRA, l'autorité administrative qui est chargée de l'examen des demandes d'asile en France. La thématique de cette session, des systèmes d'asile solides et durables, souligne les défis qui se posent pour garantir une protection effective aux personnes en besoin de protection internationale, tout en assurant la crédibilité et l'intégrité du système d'asile. En 2024, la France a reçu, via l'OFPRA, près de 154 000 demandes d'asile et rendu près de 142 000 décisions. Au 30 novembre 2025, on a constaté une légère baisse par rapport à la même période de 2024, mais la pression sur le système de l'asile en France reste forte. Au sein de l'Union européenne, afin de répondre à ces défis et renforcer le régime d'asile européen commun, les États membres se préparent à mettre en œuvre en juin prochain les dispositions du pacte européen sur la migration et l'asile en lien étroit avec l'Agence de l'Union européenne pour l'asile, dont je salue la directrice générale, chère Nina. Au niveau international, l'OFPRA demeure un partenaire engagé. Il a en effet contribué à plusieurs actions organisées par l'Agence européenne. En lien avec le HCR, dans le cadre du groupe d'appui au renforcement des capacités d'asile, l'OFPRA a pris des engagements lors des forums mondiaux sur les réfugiés de 2019 et 2023. L'OFPRA a ainsi signé des partenariats avec le Niger, le Tchad, la République démocratique du Congo, qui traduisent des engagements concordants avec l'approche stratégique récemment publiée par le HCR, à savoir un partage d'expertise pour la mise en œuvre de la législation sur l'asile, un partage d'expertise pour le renforcement capacitaire en matière organisationnelle et en matière d'examen à l'éligibilité au statut de réfugié. Et enfin, l'OFPRA a un rôle de facilitateur pour l'intervention des autres acteurs français compétents en matière d'asile, d'accueil des réfugiés et de développement durable. Deux de ces partenariats sont encore en cours. Celui signé avec la Commission nationale d'accueil, de réinsertion des réfugiés et des rapatriés du Tchad, le 29 novembre 2024, a donné lieu à une visite de la CNAR en France fin novembre 2024. Une formation a été dispensée au Tchad sur les techniques d'entretien et la prise en compte des violences faites aux femmes et aux enfants. S'agissant du partenariat signé avec la Commission nationale pour les réfugiés de la République démocratique du Congo le 14 mai 2025, une première présentation sur l'accès aux procédures d'asile et l'examen des demandes d'asile a été dispensée conjointement par la direction de l'asile du ministère de l'Intérieur et l'OFPRA aux membres de la CNR le 11 décembre dernier. À l'approche du Forum mondial de 2027, l'OFPRA entend donc maintenir et développer ces deux partenariats en faveur du renforcement des systèmes d'asile nationaux du Tchad et de RDC. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much for your intervention. And I now turn to Ms. Karine Soujian, Head of Human Rights and Humanitarian Issues from the Department from Armenia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's an honor to join you today and share Armenia's progress in implementing our asylum-related pledges undertaken at the Global Refugee Forums in 2019 and 2023. At the GRF, Armenia made two complementary commitments aimed at strengthening and modernizing our national asylum system. The first focused on digital transformation, establishing a centralized and secure electronic case management system. The second committed us to advancing institutional development and improving the quality and consistency of asylum decision-making. Together, these pledges directly contribute to Global Compact of Refugees Objectives 1 and 2, easing pressure on host countries and enhancing refugee self-reliance. I am pleased to report that the digitalization pledge has been fulfilled. The pledge on institutional development and decision-making quality remains in progress with substantial advancement already achieved. The Migration and Citizenship Service and the Ministry of Internal Affairs serves as the principal implementing body. Since the last forum, Armenia has undertaken significant structural reforms. In 2023, we established the Migration and Citizenship Service as dedicated national institution to lead asylum and migration governance. Working closely with UNHCR, we piloted the electronic asylum case management system, which now enables secure, fully digital processing of asylum applications and enhances transparency, data integrity, and caseload management. Equally important, we have introduced a structured continuous training curriculum for asylum officers, incorporating international protection standards, vulnerability screening, and child-sensitive approaches. In the 2023 max influx, when Armenia received more than 131,000 displaced persons, was a powerful test of our system's adaptability. Under the temporary protection framework, arrivals were registered efficiently, legal access was expanded in cooperation with civil society, and interagency coordination enabled timely humanitarian and social support. The outcome of those endeavors is the significant reduction of statelessness achieved through amendments to the law on citizenship in 2021 and 2023. Since 2020, we have successfully reduced statelessness by 80%. I thank you.
Thank you so much for the intervention and particularly for outlining the important developments in relation to reducing statelessness. So important. I now turn to the final intervention from Ms. Siobhan Mullally, who is representing the platform of independent experts on refugee rights and is also the UN Special Rapporteur on trafficking in persons, especially women and children. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Assistant High Commissioner, Excellencies, colleagues. Launched at the Global Refugee Forum in 2023, we pledged to establish the platform of independent experts on refugee rights, which brings together UN special procedures of the Human Rights Council, human rights treaty bodies, and the regional human rights bodies of the Inter-American, African, and Council of Europe systems. In the face of increasing challenges to the rule of law, including threats to the independence of judges and lawyers and restrictions on access to asylum, we have committed to engaging the joint resources of the international and regional human rights mechanisms to ensure the full application of human rights law to protect the rights of refugees and to develop national capacity for human rights law compliant asylum systems. At a time of significant global challenges, we have advocated for respect for the free and independent exercise of the legal profession and the independence of judges and lawyers as essential to the rule of law, to democracy and sustainable peace, and to quality asylum systems. To strengthen the quality of asylum systems, we have worked closely with the International Association of Refugee and Migration Judges and delivered training and capacity building to members of the judiciary to strengthen refugee status determination systems, ensuring early identification of asylum seekers who are victims of trafficking, effective access to international protection and to justice for refugees with disabilities, and to ensure the rights of refugee and asylum-seeking children in line with the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Through direct engagement with regional human rights systems, we have worked to embed the application of core principles of human rights law that apply to asylum systems and in the context of mixed movements. We are committed to providing further guidance and toolkits, recognizing specific and urgent protection needs of refugees and asylum seekers, and supporting states and host communities to respond to these additional protection needs, such as risks of trafficking of refugees and asylum seekers. We have engaged the mechanisms of regional and UN independent human rights experts to provide technical assistance through analysis of draft asylum legislation, and engaged directly with governments, the judiciary, lawyers, and national human rights institutions, including through country visits. Specific examples include commentary on draft asylum legislation in Egypt, in the UK, preparation of an upcoming official visit to Chad, previous visits to reception facilities for Sudanese refugees in Cairo. To give specific regional examples, we have provided detailed legal analysis of human rights law obligations arising in the context of the transposition of the EU Migration and Asylum Pact, and also in relation to agreements, MOUs, and strategic partnerships with third countries, particularly in the African region. We have engaged with the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights to address the recent proliferation of bilateral agreements concluded with the objective of transferring persons to third countries to highlight non-derogable international human rights law obligations. And we have engaged with the African Commission on Human Rights and People's Rights to address the growing trend to externalize migration and asylum policies to African states, and stress that such arrangements cannot delegate, transfer, or dilute international obligations of states arising under human rights law, and highlighted particular additional human rights obligations in relation to gender-based violence, rights of LGBT refugees, victims of trafficking that may be engaged in such processes. Finally, recalling that respect for the rule of law is not optional, it is essential to democracy and a foundational human rights principle, we have pledged to expand our partnerships with refugee-led organizations, lawyers, and member states, including through supporting the state-led process to develop a group of friends of the platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that intervention, and particularly for outlining the fundamental importance of defending the rights of those at the front line, defending the rights of others. I now invite the Assistant High Commissioner for Protection to make closing remarks. So over to you again, Reuven. The floor is yours.
Thank you, David. Fear not, the end is nigh. All right, I do want to say really what has emerged clearly from today's event is the whole of society approach that really will be the basis for strengthening asylum systems everywhere. And I'm particularly grateful for the representatives of states, regional organizations, and others in addressing the challenges of existing asylum systems, working to reinforce these structures and procedures, and for those newly establishing such systems. We also appreciate the engagement of development actors in the strengthening of asylum systems, which we hope to expand to include additional financial support, but also to include expertise on institutional elements and research. I would like to thank the important contribution of civil society, represented by you here, David, in supporting refugees with information and legal assistance, but also in contributing to the strengthening of asylum systems. And I also especially want to highlight Lisbeth's intervention, which clearly demonstrated hers and her colleagues' impressive work in Mexico, demonstrating that contributions to strengthening asylum systems also need to come from persons with lived experience of forced displacement. Thank you, Lisbeth. And finally, I encourage all states and all the wide range of other stakeholders present here today to take the next 2 years until the third Global Refugee Forum of 2027 to reinforce asylum systems to be fair, efficient, adaptive, and functioning with integrity. I also take this opportunity to reconfirm the commitment of UNHCR, with your support, to implement the approaches of the strategic approach to strengthening national asylum systems, to sustainably strengthen asylum systems to enable protection and solutions in line with the Global Compact on Refugees. Thank you very much.